Jyant Mahapatra. Jyant Mahapatra as a poet. Oh, the poetic qualities of Jyant Mahapatra. Okay, this question is always asked in the examination, and the language may be changed. You may be asked, write down Jyant Mahapatra as a poet. Or you can be asked, write down the poetic qualities of Jyant Mahapatra. Okay, so the answer or the headings will be same, whether Jyant Mahapatra as a poet or the poetic qualities of Jyant Mahapatra. So all these are important headings, so important points to be written in the examination, and it depends on you what kind of language you use for your headings. So here are few points. The very first point may be written just like this about Jyant Mahapatra. Jyant Mahapatra, you can give an introduction of Jyant Mahapatra. For example, Jyant Mahapatra, he was born in 1928 and he composes poetry in both language, in Oriya and in English. And Jyant Mahapatra, he is also called a lake bloomer in poetry, and he was even given the award of Padma Shri in 2009. Even Jyant Mahapatra, he is his one work, literary work, Relationship, that was published in 1980. It was a long poem in 12 sections, and that was selected for the Sahitya Academy Award in 1981. The poem Relationship, okay, that was a long poem. So in this way you can give an introduction of Jyant Mahapatra. The second heading, Jyant Mahapatra as an original poet. Okay, Jyant Mahapatra as an original poet. In this you can write like this, that Jyant Mahapatra, no doubt he is an original poet, and his poetry is also very remarkable for depth of feelings and his true poetic imagination. Jyant Mahapatra is a celebrated poet in post-independence English poetry, and there is an abundance of local details in his poetry. Local details means whatever he saw around him, he wrote or he presented in his composition. Temples, women, homebound cattle, rickshaw pullers around him, whatever he saw, whatever he observed, that was presented very well in his composition or in his works. So we can say that he was truly an original poet. Next is his poetic sensibility. Poetic sensibility of Jyant Mahapatra. And what kind of poetic sensibility he carried? He carried, that is, Indian. His poetic sensibility was Indian. Means it is typically Indian. Jyant Mahapatra, he vividly portrays what? For example, Odisha landscape with Puri and Konark. He writes about the Odisha landscape with the minute knowledge and sureness of an insider. Means his observation is very keen, and the real landscape becomes a symbol, a suggestive image in his poetry. So his poetic sensibility is also very Indian. Socio-political reality in his works, whether his dramas or whether his poetry, we always observe there is a contemporary socio-political reality. Means whatever he presents or he describes, that is very realistic, and that is whether it is related to society or it is related to politics, and that always goes or revolves around contemporary problems, contemporary social problems or contemporary political problems. Means his theme is not imaginary, not out of this world, not out of this society, but it is very near, very true, and whatever he writes, that is realistic. So in some of his famous poems, Jyant Mahapatra, he also deals with contemporary socio-political reality of India. Whatever he sees or whatever he saw in India, he exposes the economic disparity and the utter apathy of the politicians to public welfare. In his famous poem, there is a poem, The Secret of Heroism. Jyant Mahapatra, he brings very well to light the lamentable state of India, that what is the condition of India, and that was lamentable condition. He also mentions if as I am talking of the reality, the realistic problems, the realistic issues, whatever he presents, for example, prostitution, sexual exploitation, that also result that also result from economic disparity and gross social injustice, and there may be prescribed, for example, this poem Hunger. In Hunger, the extreme poverty of the fisherman, and that compels him to let his 15-year-old daughter resort to prostitution only for money, only for earning. So that kind of reality has been presented by Jyant Mahapatra in his works, in his poems. Next one is human relationship. So the poet Jyant Mahapatra, he explores the intricacies of human relationship, especially those of lovers. For example, there is a poem, A Missing Person. Okay, you can give the examples of poems if you are aware of any poem of Jyant Mahapatra. You can give the example of the poems that has been prescribed in your syllabus. You can take the examples from your that poem also, and I am trying to give you more and more examples from all his other works. For example, A Missing Person. In his work A Missing Person, there is a woman and she finds fulfillment of life in love. So these kinds of relationship, human relationship, is presented very well by Jyant Mahapatra. And without love, that woman is a missing person. In another work also, The Logic, the beloved is so hypnotized by her lover that even harsh treatment from him does not hurt anymore. She doesn't care of her self-esteem, of her self-respect, only for sake of love. So these kinds of lovers relationship is presented very well by Jyant Mahapatra. In Hunger poem also you can find here the relationship between customer and seller, between father and daughter. So in this way you can mention here human relationship presented by Jyant Mahapatra in his works. Next point is his poetic art. Jyant Mahapatra's poems always demonstrates a remarkable concern for both structure, okay, poetic art, that is structure, and linguistic versatility. His symbols and images are very evocative, very suggestive. They reflect his love for the Orissa, Puri, that was Karnak, and his love for the landscape of Orissa, with all the myths and rituals associated with it. In fact, we can say that his images, when we talk of images, they are very haunting, they are very accurate, and they are very precise. Then the poetic theme. If we come to the poetic theme of Jyant Mahapatra, we find there is a lot of theme. It is very difficult to say that he works only on one particular theme. No, the themes are realistic, they are very true, and they are not far from this world, far from this society, but we always feel them, we always observe them. The theme taken by Jyant Mahapatra. So we always we can observe them very well around us. So these kinds of poetic theme has been presented by Jyant Mahapatra. The thematic image of his poetry is both wide and varied. His poetic themes or his works mainly deals with, for example, Orissa landscape, history, culture, Indian especially, history and culture of Orissa, sexuality, prostitution, helplessness, poverty, human relation, and a gloomy vision of life also, that is marked by loss, dejection, grief, and alienation, suffering, misery, and compulsion, helplessness. For example, in hunger we find the helplessness of a father and a daughter also, and prostitution, and contemporary reality, but with satire. Whenever he presents contemporary reality, that is presented always with the help of satire, and love and human relationship. So there are a lot of variety in the themes presented by Jyant Mahapatra. His language and poetic style, okay, language and poetic style used by Jyant Mahapatra. No doubt his language is very figurative language that Jyant Mahapatra he uses, so he takes the help of figure of speech. When he writes, he cannot write without using simile, metaphor, but figure of speech makes his language very meaningful, and this is why that he prefers to take the help of it. And his language is figurative language. His poetic style is precise, lucid, pointed, and the faith depicting the religious fervor in the temple town of Puri is also a subtle ironical comment on the Sikh civilization of ours. He says that religion can give no solace, no comfort. So his poetic style no doubt is very original, because he had been an original poet. So this is why that his language and his style is also very unique. The command of Jyant Mahapatra over English is also very remarkable. His style is both scholarly and plain, simple, easy. It is highly symbolical. Okay, when we say symbols, use of images, they are very accurate, they are very suitable. So he uses means his style is because full of images and symbolical, imagistic style. He uses both kinds of figure of speech, simile and metaphor. Jyant Mahapatra uses especially simile and metaphor to create fine poetical effect. Okay, don't forget this. So with the help of symbols and with the help of images, he expresses his deep thoughts, his deep meanings. And the next heading is his poetic world. There is a variation, and his poetic world is full of a lot of variety. We can say that we find a wide range in his poetic world. His Jyant Mahapatra's, in this you can write that Jyant Mahapatra's poetic world is scattered with various images of wives, beloveds, horse, prostitutes, village women, city women, and even adolescent girl. And there is a lot of variation in the poetic world of Jyant Mahapatra. Then coming to the end, you can summarize or you can end your answer taking the help of this heading, that no doubt Jyant Mahapatra was a remarkable poet. Okay, he is one of the greatest poets in modern Indian English poetry, and he has brought poetry nearer to the realities of life. So his contribution to Indian English poetry is very noticeable. So with the help of all these headings, you can answer very well. Only these are the main points to be written for the examination.